Well, hello again. We've been looking a little bit at the problems with traditional brainstorming, and I mentioned earlier on that there were quite a few alternatives to it that got around some of the problems, maybe all the problems for traditional brainstorming. So let's just unpack them one at a time. Brainwriting, or method 635, you'll see why it's called 635 in a moment, traditionally done with 6 people, or groups of 6 people at least. Now you can do it with more, but it does get a little bit unwieldy. It's important for this type of brainstorming in particular that everybody has a basic technical knowledge of the subject area. You'll see why in a minute, because everybody builds upon everybody else's ideas. And it's really important that you have some kind of pre-brainstorm conversation in order to pin down exactly the problem that you're going to be dealing with. So this is the issue we're tackling right here, right now, this issue and only this issue. And then everybody is given a handout or something that looks a bit like this. You can do it in this way, or you could turn it round by 90 degrees, or however you want to do it. But the idea is that in round 1, every participant fills in something. They have an idea and they just jot it down in the idea 1 column or the idea row, however one you're doing it. The important thing is that you give them 5 minutes and they can put drawings in there, ideas in there, essays in there, bullet points in there, whatever it is. They just put enough stuff down for that idea to be captured. And then you pass the sheet that they are writing on one person around to the right. I mean, to be honest, you could pass it to the left, but what's important is that everybody's piece of paper gets passed in the same direction. And this next person can either put on something new, or if they want to, they can look at what the person before them has put and build on it. Or they could bring an idea to the table that builds upon more than one of those earlier ideas. You pass on again and you carry on like this. If you want to, you can put on new ideas, or you can build on combinations of the previous ideas. And you just keep going until every single one of these things has got something written in it. Each of these little cells here has been filled in, because at that point the piece of paper will have come back to its original person. And then you have some kind of process where you go, well, that's rubbish, that's rubbish, that's rubbish, those are duplicates, and so on. And you have some kind of prioritization process to go, that's the one that we want to take forward. Okay, so that's brainwriting method 635. You can vary it, by the way, and one personal comment here is that sometimes I found it more energizing to do this. Instead of passing the pieces of paper round to people, the pieces of paper stay where they are and everybody else moves around chairs or stands up. It just gets a little bit more energy in the room. So let's look at starburst brainstorming, much more straightforward. Basically, you just draw yourself a 6-pointed star. Whatever it is that you're looking at goes in the middle. It could be a problem, or it could be an opportunity, and you just label the stars, point to the star with who, where, why, what, how, and when. And then you brainstorm for each of those things. Now, traditionally, you would brainstorm for each of those things separately. So you'd brainstorm for how, or you'd brainstorm for who, but there's no reason that you couldn't just brainstorm wildly and have people just fighting around and putting things on there. It's just a little bit more physically chaotic if you're doing all of those 6 things at the same time. Now, here's my personal favourite, Crawford's slip writing method. Just tell you about the idea, the pros and cons of it before I tell you how to do it. Statistically speaking, you will get more ideas this way, and you'll get more interesting, diverse ideas than you get from traditional shouting out type stuff. And you'll get more ideas in particular from the nerds, the shy people, the introverts, and all that kind of jazz. And as you'll see later on, it gives you more flexible opportunities for follow-up. The downsides, of course, are that it takes a lot more setting up. You use up pens and paper and stuff, and there's less hype in the room. So how does it work? It's simple. Instead of having a really big piece of paper that everybody scribbles their ideas down on, or one person scribbles their ideas down on, what you have is lots of individual small slips, as they're called, and everybody just writes their ideas, one idea per slip, and tosses them into the middle. You may find that this one benefits a little bit from background music or something, just to keep the energy high, but be careful of the legal implications of that. Personally, I find it's a really good idea to have really high quality slips. So I tend to, if I can, have them printed with my company logo on high quality paper, rather than just knocking off your cheap post-it notes and stuff. You get more interaction from your audience if it looks like you've put some effort in there. Reverse brainstorming is particularly useful when your other systems don't work, because it comes in two steps, the second of which is just traditional brainstorming, the second of which is to turn around the first bit, but the first bit is to do traditional brainstorming on how to make the situation worse, not better. So let me give you an example for a little coffee shop that an independent coffee shop near where I live. Sainsbury's opened a local, and Sainsbury's local was giving away free coffee. Well, it's very hard for an independent coffee shop to compete with free coffee, and they brainstormed to come up with nothing because their brains are just locked into this "we can't compete" kind of mindset. So we did brainstorming and said, how would you make it even worse? Well, that's easy. You make it even worse by having lower quality coffee, or you make it even worse by only being open when Sainsbury's is open, or you make it even worse by being ruder than the Sainsbury's staff. And you can see, of course, at that point, all you do next is just go, okay, so how about making it better quality coffee and that kind of thing. And the solution they came up with was actually to put their prices up so that they weren't even in the same league of competing with just coffee. They became a place, and buying coffee from them was an event. So that's reverse storming. I just want to throw in at this point here one interesting one here called free writing. Okay, now free writing is the only one that doesn't really benefit from being done in a group. Let me bring free writing up to the idea and just move myself across to the other side of the screen. There you go. Okay, so the idea of free writing is that you just write. You grab yourself a pen and a paper and a stopwatch, that's important, with a timer on it, and you write, and you write, and you write, and you write. You don't stop writing. The only rule is that your pen must continue to move, even if all you are writing is, oh, this hurts, I've got cramp, I don't have anything to say. You just keep writing, and you'll create a couple of sides of garbage, but somewhere in that garbage will be something that's just that little bit useful, if you're lucky. Of course, you can't be absolutely sure. There are no guarantees in this. So there is free writing, and I'll just move myself over to the other side again. A whole bunch of alternatives to traditional brainstorming. We're going to be using those later on.